Welcome to Impressions of Conejo Valley. It's a timeless journey through the history of Thousand Oaks. Hi, I'm Ed Lawrence. I've been photographing the Conejo Valley for decades, and I brought a collection of pictures and stories. It's a story of large ranches and small farms. It's also a story of people, from several of the richest men in the world, to the cowboy who didn't make much money, but he thoroughly enjoyed his work and lifestyle, to the lonely sheep herder who came from a distant country and became part of the history of this area. This is the first slide I've taken in the Conejo Valley. It's a picture of Moore Park Road in early 1958. The view is south toward the mountains and 101. The building on the left side was the Shell pumping station, the only building in the picture. Halfway down you see a truck on the right-hand side. Today, opposite where that truck is Thousand Oaks High School. This is an aerial photo I took of Thousand Oaks from 20,000 feet. This was taken in early 1967. So over a period of a little over 8.5 years, you can see the dramatic change in this area. On the left-hand edge of this Lynn Ranch area, Moore Park Road runs through the center from bottom to top, and Highway 101 is at the very bottom of the picture. I borrowed some pictures from the library. This is a picture taken in 1934. They had a barbecue down in the area where Costco and Lindero Canyon Road is today. They had a attendance of 32,000 people that came to this barbecue. They served 11 tons of beef at this barbecue. And the reason it drew such a crowd, Prohibition had been just repealed. They had a bar 90 foot long and a keg of beer every 10 foot. This is a gas station in Newbury Park. It was a gas station, grocery store, feed store. It was also, I was told, a library. On the right-hand side of the photo is a portion of the Stagecoach Inn. So this, you can see, was taken in the 1920s or early 30s. This is what Thousand Oaks was noted for, jungle land. Then it was known as Goebel's Line Farm. Louis Goebel worked for the studios, and when they wanted to get rid of their animal areas, he bought them and moved them to Thousand Oaks. And he's one of the reasons why the Thousand Oaks grew up around jungle land. First people moved into Thousand Oaks, moved around where jungle land is. Here is the animal trainers, Hubert Wells. He trained lions there. And when they'd closed up, he moved a place down into Malibu Canyon where he still trained animals. Here are some of the animals. These are chimpanzees. When they weren't doing movie work, they put them to work at jungle land. Here you see them working tractors. Here they're directing an elephant to move sewers. Here they became bricklayers, so they earned their keep at jungle land there. Here's the man responsible for jungle land, Louis Goebels. He's the one that started it. And when we had our store, our camera shop, we made their Christmas cards for them every year. His wife brought this picture into me. It was a horrible flat picture, and she said, "I'd like a picture taken of me and put in beside him." So I had her come down. We had our store on the Jans Mall. I had her come down and bring a suitcase with her, because you can see Louis had the suitcase in his hand. She came down, we took a dozen pictures, and I had to make an equally bad picture of her to match the one that he sent. So I cut her down to size and cut her out very carefully and pasted her in on the original photograph, and we photographed it. And I had to print over 500 Christmas cards, and then later on another additional 200. Here's the picture I took of her in the shopping center. You can see she has the suitcase. And here's the final picture. You can see the Christmas card. And they always had a saying that went with one of the animals. So this was the last Christmas card they mailed. This is coming into Newbury Park from over the Conejo Grade. This was taken around 1963. You can see there was really nothing in Newbury Park. On the right-hand side is one of the first aerospace companies, Tally Corporation, at the very bottom of the grade there. And you're looking toward Thousand Oaks from coming over the grade. This is one building I wish they would have preserved, the Running Spring Ranch. It was a beautiful barn. It had wooden floors, and they held dances there. And I sure wish it would have been a wonderful landmark for people coming in from the Camarillo or Northern California as a landmark. And this is sheep when they came over the Borchard overpass. The bank there is the only building with outside of one or two other buildings in the Rancho Conejo Industrial Park. They would move the sheep from the Newberry Park area over into Rancho Conejo and let them graze over there for a while. This picture was taken in 1965. This taken a little later as the sheep were grazing in front of the bank. Then in 1970, is an aerial of the area. You can see the bank there. And then aerial in 1998. You can see there where the bank was is today Amgen. And Amgen covers blocks. In the background you can see the Chappelle homes. This is one of our biggest selling photographs. Is the cowboy riding to a Gunsmoke set in a Wildwood area. Cowboy was Gerald Davis. He was the foreman of a ranch over in Hidden Valley. And this was a Gunsmoke set. And the dirt road there is today Avenida de los Arboles. And this is another thing I wish they could have preserved, is an entrance to Wildwood Park. Gerald Davis made a commercial for Campbell's Soup Company. He got enough residuals from the amount of time it was shown nationally on television. He got enough money, he bought a ranch in Arkansas. I talked to him about 6 months ago. He lives in the small town of Magazine, Arkansas today. This is the road today. You see Avenida de los Arboles. It ends right toward the end there and turns into Big Sky. The two ridges in the background are kind of a trademark for the Wildwood area. As soon as people see those ridges, they say, oh, that's Wildwood. And here's another view. This is taken from the ridges looking south. Nothing but green fields. A man who had the sheep in the area, he would lease this land and he was plant barley. You can see the green barley just coming up. And then later that year, they threshed this barley. He had the old-time threshing machines there. You're looking towards CLU. And I went back to the same spot, trying to get the same picture, but so much brush has grown up, it's difficult to get exactly from the same spot. Here you see them threshing the barley here. Golden fields of golden brown then, with old-time threshing machines. Here's the man responsible for the really boom in the Conejo development, Ed Jantz on the right and his brother Bill. The Jantz family owned the Conejo Ranch, which most of the property from up near where CLU is down to across the Highway 101 where the golf course is. And he would sell this land to developers, and that's how the Conejo Valley started to grow in 1958. Here's a picture of Moore Park Road and Avenida de los Flores with the first new Conejo country homes going in. This is an aerial of the Conejo Ranch along Highway 101 and Hillcrest Road. You're looking back toward the Westlake area. On the right-hand side, you can see Highway 101, and you can see Thousand Oaks Boulevard snaking almost exactly along Highway 101. Moore Park Road is in the center of the photo. The Oaks Mall is today in that area where the Conejo Ranch was, between Hillcrest and Highway 101. Here's the view today. Taking an aerial from the same area, looking in the same direction. You see the new Oaks Mall in this picture today. And here as you come into Thousand Oaks from Highway 101. This was before they had the overpass, Westlake Overpass. The area there where Highway 101, Thousand Oaks Boulevard met, and Decker Canyon Road. It was called the Triangle, where all three roads came to a point there on 101. You're looking northwest toward the mountains, snow-capped mountains in the background. The road on the left is Thousand Oaks Boulevard. Then it was known as Ventura Boulevard before it came Thousand Oaks Boulevard. This is a Stagecoach Inn. The highway department said they were going to have to tear it down when they were putting the new Ventura Park overpass in. The people of Thousand Oaks got together and they formed the Conejo Valley Historical Society. They raised enough money to have this Stagecoach Inn moved about a quarter mile south of where it was originally. Here you see it being moved from where the original location was to its present location today. And unfortunately, in 1970, there was a fire and nobody seems to know how it started, but it burned the whole old stagecoach in down. So there's a replica today, and it's a beautiful replica, and it's very popular. It's a stagecoach in museum. This is an aerial of Conejo Valley days in 1962. You see Moore Park Road going through the left-hand portion of the picture. This was a Conejo Valley days carnival and rodeo. The carnival was on the portion of the Jantz parking lot, and the rodeo is up where the car washes and the restaurants are today. And you can see, you can't tell it in this picture, but in the bottom left-hand corner, there's a sign that you can move into a home in Thousand Oaks for $195 down. This is a picture of the rodeo area. Wilbur Road's over to the left. Moore Park Road goes up through the upper portion, and over on the left-hand upper portion is today Whole Foods, and across the street from Whole Foods on Wilbur Road is 7-Eleven. So you can see the tremendous growth since then. This is an aerial of downtown Thousand Oaks. You can see over on the left-hand side is Highway 101. In the center is Thousand Oaks Boulevard going through. And you see Skyline down at the lower portion that turns up and becomes Hillcrest. So this is downtown. Part of Jungle Land is up in the upper left-hand corner of this photo. This is Dupar's Restaurant. This is another building they should have preserved. It was a meeting place of everybody. When you met somebody, you met them at Dupar's. And Dupar's was famous for their blueberry cheese pie. It was a wonderful place, and even the stagecoach, the bus line that went from the airport, this was a stop where they picked up passengers that wanted to go to the airport. This is the first hospital in the Conejo Valley. It was on Herbs and Hillcrest. In fact, my grandson was born there. This is Los Robles Hospital, a new hospital. They contracted me to take some pictures of the hospital, and I bought some special aero infrared film where it would turn daylight into night, and the green would turn into white. So I did a series of pictures, and they liked this one, so they selected this one. This was the first baby born in Los Robles Hospital. This couple moved into Thousand Oaks in November. His wife was one of the first patients there, and this was the first baby born. This is Mr. and Mrs. Ted Schultz, and they still live in Thousand Oaks today. This is the Jantz Mall. This is the major shopping area in Thousand Oaks until the Oaks Mall come in. The only merchant in business today from this original photo is Hart's Jewelers, and they're across the street now instead of in this location. They're over where Whole Foods is today. Now we come to Conejo Valley days. This is a wonderful parade in Thousand Oaks every year. It was the whole town took part in it. You can see they had no sidewalks, and people would come and they'd park their cars and trucks right in the dirt and just sit on their hoods or in the back of their trucks watching the Conejo Valley Days parade. This is 1962 Conejo Valley Days. You see Monty Montana Jr. This is the Redwood Lodge. I wish I could have saved this building. It was a beautiful building. And here he's lassoing one the waitress, and we caught the rope as it was just ready to go over her head. The Redwood Lodge was on Thousand Oaks Boulevard near Hodenkamp. It was a beautiful building, and it was a landmark. It should have been one of the landmarks that they preserved. It was such a rustic, beautiful building. And this is during Conejo Valley Days 1962 also. This is over off of Moore Park Road where Best Buy is today. They held part of the programs there. These were races that they held here. And I had this picture in the calendar, and a fellow on the right-hand side came to me, and he said, "Ed, I'm in your calendar, I'm in your calendar." And I didn't realize I was him until he really pointed it out. So he's still living in the area. His name was Mike Moore. The fellow next to him was Ray Harris, who was a really real cowboy who lived in Newbury Park. Here's one of our oldest and longest-serving council members and mayor, Alex Fiore. He was the first council member, and I believe he served 20-some years on the council. This is a portion of Conejo Valley's parade. That's Jack Doc McGrath. He worked for Thousand Oaks Liquors. They'd have him every year in the parade. You can see the people were prepared for him. He'd spray the crowd, and he was a wonderful part of this Conejo Valley Day. He was in it every year. And here You can see the price of gasoline, 32 cents a gallon. This is in 1965. This is along the parade route. And here's Leo the Lion. Every year Jungle Lion would have some of their animals in the parade. One year it would be elephants, another year it would be the Camel Brigade. This year it was Leo the Lion. Leo the Lion is a line that introduces your MGM movies in the theaters. He was riding in the car, and I'm sure they had him secured in there because, you know, the lions are still wild animals, so, you know, they're very unpredictable. Something in the crowd could stir them up, so they had him chained down there quite securely so that there was no chance of him jumping out and attacking the people. This is Joel McRae in the cart, and one of his favorite people is the gal in the center, Belle Holloway. She was truly an old timer in the Conejo Valley. Her family owned a dairy, Holloway's Dairy, and she told stories how during World War II she was delivering milk to Camarillo, and she had to drive down the Camarillo-Conejo grade with lights out in her truck. So it was a very tough, hazardous journey for her. But she was a wonderful old gal, and she became Miss Honorary Marshal in 1960 days, Conejo Valley days. She started a horse delivery service. She transported many of the Hollywood stars' horses from one racetrack to other racetracks. She also had a horse ambulance. This is the first camera store in Thousand Oaks. I opened it in 1959, and you can see 24-hour film processing was a great thing. If you get your film done in 24 hours, it was a big thing. And you can see the call letters for the phone. HU, which stood for Hudson 55310. So this, after we moved up to the dance mall, this became Harold's House of Omelets. It's still in business today. It's just called Harold's Restaurant. This is what Thousand Oaks was known for in the 60s also. Sheep. A gentleman by the name of Nick Costa, he had to move from the San Fernando Valley into Thousand Oaks to graze his sheep. He grazed them all over different areas of Conejo here. This is coming over the overpass in Newberry Park with old bony mountains in the background. And here's the man who brought the sheep to Thousand Oaks, Nick Costa. Here he is with his sheep herd. This sheep herd was Francisco. He was one of the few sheep herders that was from Mexico. Most of them were from Spain, from the Basque country of Spain. Here they are. They'd be moving in from the hills south of 101, and this had to be done early Sunday morning. That's the only time they would allow them to move through town so they wouldn't interfere with work traffic. So barely early Sunday morning, they would call me up and say, "Come on, Ed, we're going to move them through town." I would follow them from one end of town to the other. You see them going under the 101 overpass. They're on Moore Park Road today. Here they are at Thousand Oaks Boulevard and Moore Park Road. You can see the little lamb over in the picture. We have some more stories about him a little later in the program here. They were moving right through here, and they would swing over by the Conejo Village Theater, heading toward Lynn Road. Just a dirt road in those days. And here, right across from where they were grazing, is the hospital, Las Robles Hospital today. And you can see the sheep herder. He had this very small trailer, no heat, no water. Nick would bring them out food. And it was kind of, what we thought was a lonely life, but they didn't mind it because, you know, they seemed to like this solitude and nobody would bother them. They'd appreciate when once in a while somebody would come over and talk to them once in a while, everything. But this was their life in this lonely, small, little trailer. And this is the oldest sheep herder. This is Juan Vasquez. They were shearing sheep at the time in Newberry Park, and see the pencil in his hat. He was a tally man. And I understand that before he put the pencil in this, Glenn Forward borrowed his hat from him. They had it all cleaned up and blocked and everything, and he used it in a movie about a sheep. And then he returned to Juan, and one night he got drunk and threw it in the Arroyo, and they got him a hat, and it just changed the character completely. The hat was really part of Juan Vasquez. This is one of the youngest sheep herders. This was Domingo. He was from the Basque country of Spain. And he stayed in the United States. He married a girl that worked in a bank, and years later they got divorced, and he's still, we tried to get a hold of him. Last I heard was he was down in the San Diego area. because we've been hoping we could discuss with him more of the activities that they did. There's another guy, this is Felix. He was from the Basque Country of Spain. This is down on the McRae Ranch. They were shearing sheep in Newbury Park, and again, Nick called me, come on, we're shearing sheep. These are two wool buyers. They're checking the quality of the wool. When sheep go from one pasture to another, it puts a little kink in the wool. It's not as valuable as if it's straight. So they try to keep them on one type of grass so that they don't have this kink in wool. But these wool buyers, they check it and they know exactly what they're looking at and everything. And Nick would try to shear the sheep on the hottest day because sheep would secrete lanolin, which made the wool heavier. But I'm sure these wool buyers knew all the tricks of the trade. And here you have, this is Francisco again. Here's a little lamb. This little lamb wanted to be a dog. It slept with the dogs, it ate with the dogs, it helped the dogs herd sheep. It wouldn't go with the rest of the flock. Here you see it eating out of the bowls with the dogs. And here again, you see it just imitating a dog, begging food from the sheep herder. So like I say, it stayed with the dogs, it wouldn't go with the rest of the sheep. And here's a final picture. At the end of the day, he would be sitting at the trailer, there's a lamb between his leg, a dog on each side, and he would be serenading them with a harmonica. Nick gave me this picture. Pendleton Mills up in Oregon contracted him to come up, send these sheep up there where they bathed them and dyed them these colors, and they sent them back down to the Thousand Oaks by air to try and keep clean as possible, and they were unloading them at the airport. And Nick was down there helping them, getting into the trucks to ship them out to Thousand Oaks or to do the commercial. He came into the terminal after he got in the truck, and a woman ran up to him and asked if that was his sheep, and he says, yes. And she says, I didn't know they could grow sheep in colors like that. And he didn't want to disappoint her. He says, oh yes, it saves the manufacturers a lot of money instead of having to dye them later. They can put this dye on them when they are, growing, so they don't have to spend so much money later. And she actually believed him. This is some of the benefits of living in the Conejo. Every once in a while when they fired a missile from Vandenberg, you'd see these contrails in the sky. This looks like a big bird in the sky. Looks like this missile went kind of haywire and just zigzagged all over the place. This is one of the benefits of living here. You get some of these wonderful sky contrails. This is one of our aerials. This is the industrial, Conejo Ranch Industrial Park, looking back toward Newbury Park, Highway 101 through the center. And the building at the bottom here is Northrop, first aerospace to move into the industrial park. There's very little known about this couple. They know this was a couple that owned much of the land in the back corner of Hidden Valley. This is Colonel French and his wife. He rode with Teddy Roosevelt's Rough Riders, and he was 55 and she was 20 when they got married. They lived very happily. He passed away in 1941. She lived until the mid-90s, and she was a wonderful guardian of Hidden Valley. She wanted to keep Hidden Valley from becoming a developed area. So they lived wonderfully together. They took big part in some of the activities there. They catered a lot to the movies because several of the movies were made out in the area. This is one of the old-time cowboys, Hoot Gibson. She entertained a lot of the members of the movie industry quite a bit. This is the first ranch as you come into the valley on the right-hand side. Then it was called Deerwood Stock Farm. It was a man-raised thoroughbred horses. And I made friends with a foreman there, a fellow by the name of Parker Finch. And he told me the man's name was Dellinger. And he says, Mr. Dellinger loves this place so much he'll be one of the last to sell. Well, it turned out he was one of the first to sell. And it was sold to a company that wanted to put a development in. But he couldn't put a development in because there wasn't enough groundwater, and he was hoping to bring metropolitan water in. But he had to get approval from all the other ranchers in the area, and they turned it down. There's no way. We want to keep this place pretty much the way it is. So a year later, he sold it to Mr. David Murdoch, who was the CEO of Dole Pineapple, who owns it today, and he seems intent on preserving the area much the way it is today. I always regarded Hidden Valley as the jewel of the Conejo. And this was the ranch opposite the the Deerwood Stock Farm. This is the McMahon Furniture Ranch, and Mr. Murdoch bought this property, and he converted it to, it's still pretty much the front is the same, but in the back portion is a Sherwood Country Club where they held the Tiger Woods golf tournament. Here, for a while, they had raised Andalusian horses. These are beautiful horses. When they're born dark, almost black, and then slowly over the years they turn light white like their mothers are. These are used in lots of parades. It's the #1 horse in Mexico. This ranch was owned by a fellow by the name of Bert Sugarman for a while before it was sold again to Mr. Murdoch. The man who produced Dean Martin's show, his daughter owns the ranch back in the corner of Hidden Valley, and she's the only one that raises Andalusian horses there today. This is Highway 101 in 1963 over in what then was today Westlake Village, because it's known as the Albertson Ranch. You can see how light the traffic was in those days on Highway 101. In the early morning when people were driving to work on Thousand Oaks Boulevard before it came onto 101 up at the triangle there, these were cattle. They would go along the fence and would watch the cars coming by there. So from cattle, it came to cars. So you can see the dramatic change. This is after Westlake Boulevard and Thousand Oaks Boulevard met. They realigned Thousand Oaks Boulevard, moved it further north, and it met Westlake Boulevard, and Westlake Boulevard then continued north where it eliminated Skelton Canyon Road. You can see the Westlake overpass there in the picture. This is the first auto dealership in the Thousand Oaks Auto Mall. This is Sid Hamilton, who opened courtesy Chevrolet. This is Lake Sherwood from Stony Point. You're looking back, it looks more like a river where you see the bend in there, which you can't see from ground level. When you get up high, you can see that bend. You're looking back toward Hidden Valley. In 1960 to 61, there's severe drought in the Conejo area where Lake Sherwood almost dried out. You can see the docks on the right-hand side out of water, and they grazed cattle on the lake bed from the ranch, from the nearby ranches. Then a few years later, when we had enormous amounts of rain, you can see water coming over the dam there. It came down into the Foxville area and created an island in there, and they had trouble getting to their main part of their facility there. They had strung a cable pulley go from one part of the ranch to the other until the water settled down. This is Conejo Valley. This is the area where Westlake is today. You're looking back toward Thousand Oaks, you see nothing but oak trees. You know, very few people knew about how Thousand Oaks got its name. And you can see from this picture, they had a contest in the 1920s. It had no name, so they had a contest to see what name they could give it. And a 14-year-old schoolboy by the name of Bobby Harrington picked the name of Thousand Oaks. And he won $5 and a little piece of land. So he's the one who gave Thousand Oaks the name. So he was, you know, a schoolboy. When I put this in front of the school kids, I tell them, see here, the schoolboy named Thousand Oaks, not an adult. So they get a kick out of that. This is the man responsible for the development of Westlake Village, a man on the right-hand side. He was known as the unknown millionaire. He never sought any publicity. He was very rarely photographed. In fact, he told me, he said, I don't want any flash to be taken. I don't even want to know when the picture is being taken. The man on the left next to Reagan is John Nodder. He was in charge of the development of Westlake Village. Mr. Ludwig's wife saw this picture and she ordered 12 copies of it. She said that's the only picture she has of him smiling. He developed all Westlake Village, later on sold to Prudential Insurance Company. This picture has done more for me than any photograph I ever taken. They wouldn't allow anybody on the ranch because they had as many as 4 movie companies on at the same time, so they didn't want anybody interfering with the movie work going on. But a gal in town by the name of Donna Fargo, she was one that boosted Conejo Valley more than anybody else. She even put out a Conejo Valley directory. She knew the families that owned the property, and she got permission from me to go on the ranch and take a picture for usually the Conejo Valley Days program. I went over there and I saw a cowboy. I said, where's the best spot? Pork Chop Hill. They made a home movie on that hill starring Gregory Peck. It was an actual battle in the Korean War. Almost the whole film was done on that hill. So I climbed that hill and I saw clouds starting to form. I sat there for 3 hours waiting until the clouds got their best, and I took this picture. I made a big 1620s. I gave it to the owners. They liked it so much, they says, you can go on the ranch anytime you want. We just want to see proofs of everything you do. So they invited me to their cattle roundups and to some of their movie sets, so I had free reign. They gave me a combination of all the gates. So this picture was taken in 1962. Then in 1966, when the development started, I climbed that same hill, took a picture from the same spot. 1970, from the same spot. There's an oak tree in the middle of that picture. It was in the first 3 pictures. We called it the lone oak because it sat in the field all by itself. You can see the West Lake in already on the spot there. This is 1983 from the same spot, and we tell people, see if you can find the oak tree. It's in the picture in one very tiny little spot. In order to take this picture, I had to climb up top Pork Chop Hill. I drove up because the road all the way to the top, and there was homes at the top. So I went back home and I took the picture I made at another 1620. I went to the home that I thought I took the first 3 from, and I approached the woman and I said, you know, I'm not selling anything. I have a picture taken in this area from the early 1960s. I'll give it to you if you let me go in your backyard and take a picture. She looked at it and said, oh my God, this is the way it looked before? She says, yes, you can go back in my backyard. So this is the picture I took from their backyard there. This is West Lake Boulevard when it just went in and eliminating Decker Canyon Road. You're looking by south toward Lake Sherwood. 101 is at the bottom of the photo. This is a view today from the same angle, looking south. You can see the dramatic change in it, from just nothing but open fields now to homes and the new West Lake Boulevard completed in there. This is an area where the lake, the island and the lake is going to be. You see a little kind of a wall structure at the bottom of the picture. That's part of a movie set there. You're looking toward Thousand Oaks. In the center of the picture is the portion that will become the island of the new West Lake area. You're looking toward Thousand Oaks too from here. You can see the beginning of the digging for the lake and the island in the center. The barn on the right-hand side is right where the border of Ventura and LA County will become. You can see the channels being formed here now and the island being created in the center of the photo. Here's an aerial view after the lake is completed. On the right-hand side is Lindero Canyon Road. And you see their first homes are just beginning to be built on the island. This is what it looks like today. You can see the island is completed. On the left-hand side is Triunfo Canyon Road. You see a bridge coming over to the island. The bridge is the county line. On this side of that bridge is LA County. On the other side is Ventura County. The people who live on the other side of that bridge are part of Thousand Oaks. The street there is called La Venta. LA for LA County, Ventura for Ventura County. And it is the county line between Ventura and LA County. This was taken in 1963. This is north of, you see on the bottom picture is Skeleton Canyon Road, Highway 101 crosses the center. This is where the promenade is today. You're looking south toward Lake Sherwood area. Here it is today. The promenade was nothing but a bare field before. This is Skeleton Canyon Road. Today it is West Lake Boulevard. People from the movie industry called me up and they wanted to know where Bonnie and Clyde met their demise. And they sent me the film and I looked at it and I said, yes, it was on Skeleton Canyon Road. It was north, about a half mile north of where this picture was taken. Skeleton Canyon Road come out to where it met the sign and a fence across the road said Lang Ranch. So later on, it would continue on down into the Lang Ranch area when it became West Lake Boulevard. You can see the first stages of development in the Lang Ranch area. Here's a close-up of the Lang Ranch homes. You know, years ago when Thousand Oaks first started to develop, you could buy a home for around $12,000. You're anywhere from $400,000 to $600,000 homes. Even after development started, they still had cattle grazings on portion of the ranch. Highway 101 is to the left, and you see the sign advertising Westlake Village. These cattle grazing were today where Baxter Medical Supplies buildings are. Here's another area about the same spot with sheep grazing there. You can see development in the background. So this is probably the last portions of sheep in the area of grazing over in the Lind Ranch, on the Westlake property. This is Domingo, the sheep herder, with his sheep there. And when you get off of Westlake off-ramp onto Westlake Boulevard, Thousand Oaks had this marquee there saying it was you're still entering Thousand Oaks, but vandals stole the emblem so much they moved the emblem over, or the marquee over in the middle of the strip separating the two-lane north and southbound lanes, so there's less chance of people stealing it. But people very rarely know that almost all of Westlake Boulevard is in Thousand Oaks. Only about 15% is in Westlake, and that's when it goes up the mountain to where it meets Mulholland and then ends. Here you see cattle grazing. This is along Decker Canyon Road before it became Westlake Boulevard. These are cattle used in a lot of the Rawhide TV series. And here's that same area. Today where those cattle grazed is the Hyatt Hotel. When it first was built, it was the Westlake Plaza Hotel. And this is the last part of the area that Daniel Ludwig owned. He sold almost everything and he kept this one part, and they built a Westlake Plaza Hotel for him. He had never seen it, and they contracted me to do a video on it. And we went through it all, and the gentleman, a fellow with a heavy Italian accent, he was the manager of the place. And after it was done, he says, I want you to get gypsy violin music. And I searched through Thousand Oaks, couldn't find one, went to the San Fernando Valley and found it, and he says, well, I want to narrate with you playing gypsy violin music in the background. So we come over to my home, we did it, and at first I thought he was kind of crazy, but after it was done, I reviewed it, and I said, boy, he knew what he was talking about, this gypsy violin music with this heavy Italian voice. And when we finished with it, he took the copy, and I said, gee, I'd like to make a copy. He said, no, I'm taking it immediately down and mailing it to, FedExing it to Daniel Ludwig, who has never seen it. So it's another thing I wished we had a copy of. You saw this wall here before. It's part of a prison set for a Japanese prisoner war camp. It was the biggest set that Columbia built on location. It was a movie called King Rat. And all you could see from the highway was that little bit of that wall of that prison. And the rest of the prison set down below in this gully. It was, again, like I say, an entire Japanese set for a movie, King Rat, George Segal's first big movie. Now here's part of the set here, a fake cemetery and that. And if you'll notice the hill in the background, this is a hill in the background, and this is where the wall of the dam performing of the Westlake Lake is. And you can see it's right where the cemetery was there, so that's where the wall of the dam started to be built. And this is a Gunsmoke series that was very popular on TV. They did some of it on the Westlake property, and they did some over on the Conejo Ranch property. So we had Gunsmoke done on two areas of the Conejo Valley. This is James Arnett's with the camera crew discussing how to film this scene. And here's a gentleman people recognize right away. It's Clint Eastwood, when he got his start in the Rawhide TV series. They did many of the Rawhide over on the ranch there. So this is a very popular spot for movies. Even after development, here's Ephraim Zimbalist in the FBI story down at the Landing. So even after development, they still used a lot of it for movies. And this is one of the famous animals. He wasn't a human actor, but he was in many of the cattle scenes. This is Old Blue. He lived to be 27 years of age. He was in many of the roundup and the cattle drives that were on the ranch. And this is set on North Ranch, Texas Across the River, starring Dean Martin. This is photographed in 1964. And even after development, they had this movie set for a while, and they had this motocross race right through the set there. And I was surprised. I thought, well, nobody will want these pictures. We sold quite a few of them, people who were motorcycle enthusiasts. And here they would move the cattle from one side of the ranch to the other. And the only way they could move them, they had 2 tunnels that went under Highway 101. This one was going under the West Lake overpass and continuing over to where the promenades. They would gather cattle from the southern end of the ranch and move them over to the north ranch where they did all their branding operations. In the background against the hills is today Hampshire Road. And here they're pushing them into this draw, trying to force them into the tunnel. And usually this is where Old Blue comes in. Once they get Old Blue in there, then the rest of them follow. And here you see the cowboy drive. This is after they crossed under the West Lake overpass, and they're going under the overpass that goes over to 101 into the promenade area. They had another tunnel that was down near Lindero Canyon Road. Here's again the rawhide cattle coming from North Ranch to the southern portion, apparently for a movie in the southern portion of the ranch. So they had these 2 tunnels, the one under Highway 101 and Westlake Overpass is gone, and I'm not sure where this tunnel is still there. It's down near where the golf course is today in Westlake. And here's the beginning of the cattle drive for the roundup and branding operations. The cows would gather cattle from all over the northern parts of the ranch where they would do all their branding operations, or driving into the corrals. Here's a cowboy he's one of the last remaining cowboys who still lives in the area, a fellow by the name of Gene Adepa. He came to our last slide, so I wanted to introduce him to the crowd. They're driving the cattle in toward the corrals. You see them in the corrals. There's cowboys from many of the ranches, from Hiddens Valley, from Santa Paula area, from all over the southern area of California, or Simi Valley and these areas. They all like to take part in the roundups because a lot of them got their practice for rodeos here and roping the cattle. And here they're separating the calves from the mothers. The cowboy and the horse know exactly which calf or which cattle to keep in the route. So they're separating calves from the mothers. And here they're starting their branding offers. They would pair off. 6 riders would do the roping, and the others would do the branding and all the other operations. One man would try to lasso the head of the calf and the other hind feet of the calves. Here again you see them. Here's a fellow throwing the lasso to catch the hind feet. Here's another one, they're roping again. It's quite an affair. And after they do about 12 cattle, then they change hands. The people doing the branding then get a chance to go on their horse and do the same thing. Here's the biggest calf. It took 3 guys to flip this calf. And halfway through they had this little barbecue. At first it was kind of just a small barbecue pit or a bowl. Then all they served was the bread, the beef, beans, and coffee. A couple of years later, the wives took part, and then they had the full thing. Tablecloths, a big barbecue, salads, and the whole works. So quite a change from just a small little pit onto the big operation. You can tell this is a male calf. The fellow kneeling down, he's going to be doing the castrating. There's a fellow with a pair of pincers in the center. He's going to clip the horns of this calf, and the other fellow's going to cauterize with a hot iron. The boy calves got the full treatment. The girl calves, all they got was a brand and a shot. Here's Gina Deva applying the brand to the calf. You know, we went from 1 cowboys to a new breed of cowboys. These are the Dallas Cowboys have moved into town. They gave me the new breed of cowboys here when they trained up at CLU for many years. It was part of their scrimmaging during their training camp there. Thousand Oaks is noted for its many trails, hiking trails. I think we have some of the best hiking trails of any city in California. The most favorite spot is out in the Wildwood area there, the Wildwood Trail. The main trail goes out to a place called Lizard Rock. Before you get to that, you can hike down to Paradise Falls here, or you get another trail that goes up over the ridge to Santa Rosa Valley area. Another one goes over Stagecoach Bluff Trails, where they used to push stagecoaches or wagons off the cliff down into the canyon below in some of the movies. In fact, a couple of bonanzas were filmed in this area. Not everything was filmed up at the Lake Tahoe area. They had one where a horse was going to fly off of one of the Stagecoach Bluff cliffs with wings. And it was a favorite spot for many of the Westerns. They also did the battle scene of Spartacus out in the area, which was a big production. And one of the classic movies in 1940, Wuthering Heights, was filmed on a CLU ridge. This is Paradise Falls down in the canyon. This is a favorite trail for the elderly and blind people. This is the Oak Creek Trail. You can get to it when you get to the end of Moore Park Road after you cross under 101 and take Green Meadow Drive, and there's a parking lot where you can take this trail. It's a wonderful trail in the summer because it's very well shaded and it's very cool air, and also you have a rope for blind people can take this trail. So again, it's one of the nicest trails, especially for the elderly. This is Hill Canyon. They were going to put a development in here. They had signs for a golf course, and homes were going to go on a hillside. And people of Thousand Oaks, they got wind of it and they wanted to have a vote on it. People turned it down because it's one of the last really, truly wildlife areas we have. So it's been preserved, and they have a trail down through. They built a bridge that crosses a creek so you can hike over into the area now. At the top is the part of the Rancho Conejo Industrial Park. In some of the mornings after rain, you can get up on top of some of these ridges. I went over to Westlake and I drove up where Pork Chop Hill was, and I got slightly above it, and you can see from here it's clouds. When you're down there driving, it's fog. But in these damp days, early mornings, sometimes this forms over there, and it's a beautiful scene that you can see from there. This is a sunset taken from Kevington. I'd climb up there. I always looked for sunsets, but we don't have them that often in Conejo area. Down along the coast, they're loaded with them. But I climbed to the top of the hill and I took this. You can see all the lights in Thousand Oaks. You're looking toward southwest toward Newberry Park area. I talked to customers that come in my store. There was a lot of pilots when I first opened up our camera store, and asked, how come there's so many pilots out here? They said, well, when you're flying over this area, Thousand Oaks stood out like a sore thumb. He said it was free of the LA smog, and it was mostly free of the fog that hangs along the coastal cities. But there was just many pilots. They moved first into Lynn Rancher, and then a lot of them moved into Kevington area, where you got this beautiful view from Kevington too. This is a sunset from Fireworks Hill. I must have climbed Fireworks Hill 50 times in 1 year, hoping to get a good sunset. Because when the sunset starts occurring, you have only a few minutes to get it at its peak. So I'd seen one that I thought was going to be good sunset. I'd hustle over in the cloud and hike up the top of Fireworks Hill. And I'd get halfway up and I said, it's not going to be a good sunset, but I continued up there just to get the exercise. But this is one of the sunsets I got from it. You can see 101 winding through the picture from the Camarillo grade. And down at the bottom of the picture is the Oaks Mall. The sunset coming between the oak trees. Again, I keep looking for more oaks that I can get wonderful sunsets through. I keep searching, researching more oaks all over the Conejo Valley. Still want to get more pictures of sunset behind the oaks. This is the last picture in our show. Gene Adepa, his last look at the ranch where he did a lot of his work. So he's saying farewell to his wonderful, beloved ranch where is his last few days on the job here. I hope you've enjoyed our journey through Thousand Oaks. You can find 115,000 more pictures of Conejo Valley history, American Radio archives, and so much more at the Grant Brimhall Thousand Oaks Library Special Collections Department. On the website at toaks.org/library. You can also see the Ed Lawrence photo collection at edlawrencephoto.com. Thank you very much.